MG here alongside Mark Montieth, the host of One on One with Mark Montieth, and I get to go one on one with you today.
Yeah, the other side of the interview.
That's exactly right, exactly right. Well, just hours ago, you and I were at Conseco Fieldhouse, were able to watch the viewing of the documentary Winning Time, Reggie Miller versus the New York Knicks. It chronicles the rivalry, of course, that a lot of Pacer fans recall, started in the early 90s, and the movie starts with the headbutt, John Starks on Reggie Miller, and culminates with the Eastern Conference semifinal victory for the Pacers in 1995. Heated rivalry. Give me your reaction as you watched the documentary today.
Well, I thought it was great, Michael. I thought I did not cover those games. I started covering the Pacers in 1996, and I covered them for about a dozen years for the Star. But I'm certainly familiar with what happened, and I've seen the clips endless times. But this documentary went so much deeper. It interviewed all the key people: Patrick Ewing, John Starks, the coaches, Reggie's teammates, media people, and you kind of get the backstory to it. And I thought it was outstanding, and I think a lot of people wouldn't expect it to be funny, but it was genuinely funny, as you know.
Yeah, it wasn't a laughing matter when the Pacers got together for the Knicks, but I like the way Dan Flores, the director and producer of the movie, put it together, and it was a comedy, the way that he kind of approached it. Now, was there anything that you saw in the documentary that surprised you at all?
Not too
Looking
much.
back on it?
Yeah, not really. Nothing really surprising. You just kind of enhanced the story and drew it out, and that's what I like about sports. All these great moments, these highlights, always have a story behind it, you know. And in Reggie's case, you know, he got into the Steve Alford draft issue
Yes.
and the reaction to that. Talked to Indiana fans who were upset about that.
Right.
And kind of got that background. It got some of John Starks' background. They showed Ewing being drafted by the Knicks and how he was going to be their savior, and the media reaction to that. So that kind of enhanced everything, and I thought that really just made it a better story.
Certainly. Now, the picture, believe it or not, that inspired this movie and Dan Flores' decision to go about directing it and putting it together for ESPN, their 30 for 30 series, was this image right here. I don't know if you can see it, but many of you may recall this image of Reggie Miller in the 1998 playoffs. This was taken May 10th, 1998, the shot. And the reason this stands out, many of you recall this photo, is the Knicks fans in the background. That was at Madison Square Garden, and the pure terror on the faces of Knicks fans seeing Reggie Miller take a shot that he has hurt them with so many times, time and time again, and that inspired this movie.
It did, and I was at this game, and it's a classic. This is like 3 years after this documentary ends, so Reggie's already had the 25-point fourth quarter, the 8 points in 8.9 seconds, and this is 1998 at Madison Square Garden. Bird's coaching the Pacers, and on this play, Rick Smits had missed a layup because off balance. Chris Mullin managed to get a hand on the ball and tipped it out to Mark Jackson. Jackson immediately reverses it to Reggie on the left wing, right in front of Spike Lee. And as he's going up for the shot, all the fans are like, "Oh no!" And it's just such a classic. And the Pacers went on. This shot forced overtime, and the Pacers won it in overtime and won the series as well. Now they lost to the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. But this shot is still a classic, and it's the crowd reaction that makes it so special. Paul Shancy, the star photographer, was sitting on the floor right in front of me at the Garden, and we ran that in a poster for the Star. A supermarket got involved with it, and Paul's now an AP photographer in Detroit, but it's really a classic, and I was just telling you earlier that he gave copies to Reggie and Donnie Walsh, and Reggie autographed a copy for Paul saying something like, "This was the best shot of the day." And it is a classic, and it's interesting that Dan said that he almost did a documentary on this photograph and everything behind it, and you really could. I'm not disappointed in the documentary. I did wonder, why not go beyond 95 and include this moment in the Garden, and then culminate it with the Pacers clinching their only trip to the NBA Finals in the Garden, when, as you know, Reggie had a great game, had 30-some points, and really carried the team on his back. To me, that would have been kind of the perfect ending, because that whole Reggie New York thing goes beyond those two playoff years when he had the 25-point fourth quarter and the 8 points in 8.9 seconds. But you know, he chose to focus more narrowly, and that's fine. I just thought it was outstanding.
Now, the big event is at Conseco Fieldhouse. It's February 26th. It's just $10 to get into Conseco Fieldhouse to be able to watch this movie, and I'm sure fans that are nostalgic for those good old days in the 90s will be clamoring at an opportunity to go, and the proceeds benefit a number of great charities in the area. So we hope you go out there and check that out. Now, as you mentioned, the movie's about, what, 68 minutes?
Yes.
And 68 minutes in length. It'll air on ESPN in March on Selection Sunday. So
Right.
again, it's outstanding. The 30 for 30 series on ESPN
It's great. I've liked every one.
Yes. Now, for those, again, in Indiana, remember Marcus Square Arena, how the building used to shake and those great rivalries there. You actually had opportunities to go see the Pacers at Madison Square Garden. Give an idea of what that atmosphere is like.
Fantastic. You know, Madison Square Garden is a lot like Market Square Arena in that it's a small arena by modern standards. It doesn't have all the big suites and everything that make an arena bigger, so it's compact, so the noise stays there. It's a different atmosphere than Market Square Arena was as far as the fan involvement and everything and the music they played, but it's still very similar. And New Yorkers had the same passion for basketball as Hoosiers do, just kind of in a different way.
Right.
So I thought the atmosphere there was great. The Pacers enjoyed winning no place more than Madison Square Garden. There's no question about that. When they clinched their trip to the NBA Finals there in 2000, that's where they really wanted to do it, and it was appropriate that they did it there. So the Garden's a special place, and you know, the fans there, you know, I'd be sitting on press row and you'd hear so many fan comments behind you and so much of it about Reggie, and they feared him. You know, they feared him, and as this documentary somewhat pointed out, this whole Reggie New York thing took on meaning beyond basketball. It was kind of sociological. It was a small town city beating big bad New York. And I can tell you from my experience covering the Pacers, as I met fans around the world, that thing resonated internationally. I mean, people around the world took pride in the skinny Reggie Miller guy from this small city in Indianapolis beating the Knicks. You know? I mean, that meant so much to a lot of people. It really was a David and Goliath thing, and you know, that's what sports is about: the underdog beating the favorite team, the whole Hoosiers thing. And this was kind of an NBA version of Hoosiers.
Let's talk about some of the characters in this rivalry, and of course Reggie Miller is one of the centerpieces, and on the Pacer team you had Rick Smits, and it talked about acquiring Mark Jackson and how he wanted to stick it to the Knicks himself, who was drafted and won Rookie of the Year there.
Right.
And then the Knicks, you had Patrick Ewing, you had Derek Harper, and of course John Starks, Anthony Mason, and others. And then to start with the guy who had some interesting comments in the movie, one Spike Lee, who was he was that 12th man, if you will, on the Knicks.
Well, I thought Spike was great, and I like Spike because he's a devoted fan. He buys his ticket and sits in the front row, and he travels with the Knicks. He dared come to Market Square Arena for these playoff games, and that was an interesting part of the documentary, how he was treated by the fans in Indiana. And it was, so I like Spike, and I've always given him credit for that. And he really made the movie funny because he was talking about, you know, what he didn't do when everybody knew he did, and how he was treated by the media in New York. They showed the tabloid headlines, you know, spiked and that kind of thing. So I thought that added a lot of humor to it, and I thought he handled it really well. You know, I give him a lot of credit. He's not only a self-made film director himself, but a true die-hard fan. He's not one of these guys who only shows up when a team's rolling. He's there through thick and thin. He pointed out that he first bought season tickets when the Knicks drafted Patrick Ewing. And so this meant a lot to him, just like a lot of other New Yorkers. And I thought he added a lot to it. In fact, the whole Reggie Spike thing is really probably the reason for doing this documentary. I don't think you could have done it because Reggie wouldn't have been doing the chokes, you know, if not for Spike being right there. And I don't know where he got the footage, but they've got television footage, must have been local New York TV, of what Spike's yelling during the game. You know,
yes, that's right.
And that kind of, I guess you talk about surprises. I didn't expect to hear some of that, and it was funny. You know, Spike was funny, and he's your basic diehard fan, and you know, I really admired him for that, and I think you know, he's what made this rivalry what it is, and he helped make this documentary what it is.
Again, for Pacer fans that are nostalgic for the good old days, this is a can't miss event at Conseco Fieldhouse on February 26th. You should check it out. Winning time: Reggie Miller versus the New York Knicks. This is MG's video blog alongside Mark Montieth. Again, appreciate the time, Mark.
All right, Michael.
Thanks, Brad.